Hello, awakening souls. I'm Dawn Elgin, your Contrarian soul guide, here to walk with you through the raw, real, beautiful mess of becoming. Today, we're talking about something that happens after almost every single shift, every breakthrough, every healing moment. The oh shit, after the aha. That moment when the old you doesn't really fit anymore, but the new you hasn't fully landed yet. This space is sacred. And today we're going to talk about why it matters, how to navigate it, and how to stay in alignment even when the body wants to run. Welcome to Practical Spiritualism and Sovereignty Rising YouTube edition. This is the space where we learn to ditch the fear and embrace the flame. This is about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been and actually living like it. So let's jump in. Here's what no one really tells us about growth. Most of us were taught to chase transformation like a finish line. But growth doesn't end with a journal prompt or a good cry. It starts when you wake up the next day and everything feels unfamiliar. I remember talking to my doctor about this a few years ago when I began this phase of my journey, this one that I'm in now. I told her that it felt like one door was closing, but I couldn't quite reach the next door to open it. I was in the transition between my old life of the lighting world and design and my new life that I couldn't really see clearly yet. I was shifting from being an triple A type personality, a control freak who is really a powerhouse at doing, of believing that I was this body and mind and that my value was all in my performance, and of moving into my life of being. So understanding that I was not all those things, but the witness or the watcher of it all. I was trying to figure out, how do I be while doing, and how do I do while being? I was having these powerful spiritual shifts and experiences, but I was left not only really in awe and in wonder, which is beautiful, but also raw, unstable, and totally unsure of my place in this world. And I remember my doctor told me there's a place for this space that you're talking about, and it's called life. Ha. The nervous system doesn't care about your breakthrough. It cares about safety. And anything unfamiliar, even freedom, can feel unsafe at first. So the truth, the breakthrough isn't actually in the work, it's in holding it. So why do we spiral after we shift? Let's break down the nervous system response. First, new is totally an unknown. And though it can be exciting, it's also scary. The unknown is potential danger, especially to the subconscious mind. And then the body tends to retreat to known patterns for protection. This is not regression. This is rewiring in process. So signs of post-breakthrough spiraling: overwhelm, over-analysis, shame or doubt creeping in, wanting to fix the next thing instead of resting in what shifted. Here's the thing. The ego is our identification with form: physical form, thought form, emotional form, which includes our memories. So the ego identifies not only with our past, but also with our pain, mental, emotional, and physical. It's the gripping to our suffering that keeps us stuck in the past, stuck in the unconscious mind. And that is why it is so vital for us to let go. One of my favorite visuals for this is imagining that we're playing tug of war and we're on one side and life's on the other. Our ego, our intellect, all the chaos in our life. And we're on this one side of this rope and we're holding on super tight. And we're worried about how our feet are planted, leaning back into our body so that we can't get pulled forward, how we're gripping. We've got all these technical things going on. And our coach, whether that is a spiritual guide, a teacher, a mentor, an angel, they're looking at you going, let go. And you're like, I can't. I gotta place my feet. I gotta have my hands. I gotta lean back. I gotta put all of my focus on this, holding on and gripping so I don't go into the mud. And your team is like, let go. And all of a sudden you just release the rope and everything just falls. It's beautiful. It's scary as shit, but it's also incredibly empowering. So with that, let's just take a pause for a moment. I want you to just close your eyes or soften your gaze and just think about a moment of big growth in your life. And I want you to think about it and remember what happened right after it. And feel free to journal this later on. But what did your body feel? What story did your mind try to make up? Often we like to ignore these pieces instead of going back to learn from them. And I want you to feel it, not just think it, because the mind is the place that the ego hides. And we want to drop into our body. That's the way that we get into our heart, into our soul. And when we're in our heart, in our soul, we can remember that integration is really the sacred middle. And your visualization here is the caterpillar and the cocoon. Once the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it makes that decision that it's time to change. Then it goes into the cocoon and it begins the middle journey. And in that journey is liquefying. It's disintegrating. It becomes almost nothing so that it can reform into something. Before it awakens as a butterfly, there's a whole ugly process in here. And we think like, oh, it's the awakening. But here's the thing. Even when the butterfly does climb out of the cocoon, it's not over yet. It needs to rest. It needs to dry itself off. It spreads its wings and it just rests and gets some air and gets used to this new way of being. It's integrating the entire process that it just went through. This is actually when a butterfly is most vulnerable. And often in our own healing journey, our expansion, our remembering, it's when we're most vulnerable, when we've just had this big shift, but now what? And we feel a little lost and a little scared. And it's this moment that's the most important moment for us in many ways, because it's the moment where we could go back and try and pretend like none of that happened. Or we can take these moments, gain our bearings, and fly. The integration gap is when you've shifted internally, but haven't seen external alignment yet. That's really what the gap is. When the ego wants to do something, but the body says, wait, breathe. So I have a reflection prompt for you here that I'd love for you to take time and write down, even if it's just contemplating, whichever your practice is. And the prompt is, where in your life are you in between what was and what's becoming? Because often it's not our whole life, but just one portion or a couple of places that we're in the shift. I had a client that I was working with, and they were going through this divorce, and it was absolutely messy. And she allowed herself to go through each stage of this transformation, the sadness, the grief, and the anger. And we worked to really keep her grounded and present, even when the mind wanted to spiral. And people are encouraging her to date and just move on and get to the next phase. And instead of doing it, I asked her to wait and just really be with herself for a little, to create an intimate relationship with herself. And she held and she explored rather than rushing into the next thing, into that next phase, into that next relationship. And because she did, when it was time, she was able to enter into that next phase as her truest self. She was grounded in who she was. She didn't doubt herself. She was so intimately aware of herself, she was able to cultivate deeper intimacy in not only her romantic life, but with friends and family and even with work. So here's what I teach to stabilize the shift. And it's micro actions over big moves. So instead of overhauling your business, we change our morning routine. We name what's real. This fear is familiar. This truth is new, but I can hold both. And naming it takes all the scariness away. And we anchor into the body daily. And we do that with breathing exercises, body scans, walking, pausing, savoring. My go-to ritual to keep me grounded and centered through all of this, to be in alignment, is my morning routine. Each day I have a morning prayer I use. I do spiritual reading while I have my protein coffee, and then I do exercise or yin yoga, and then I meditate. And it might seem like a lot, but even if you're doing 5 to 10 minutes of these, makes a big shift. And this way, when the glow of growth fades and the discomfort begins, I can stay with myself rather than doing something to prove it. Because our ego loves to suddenly jump into this new way of being and tries to cultivate another identity. So I have a prompt here for you that is great if you can write it down, or again, if you want to think about it, I'm going to keep it in the description so that you can go back to it. But the prompt that I want you to use is, what is one thing you can do today to honor your growth instead of trying to prove it? What's one thing you can do today to honor your growth instead of trying to prove it? And so we're allowing and creating, it's not even just allowing, we're cultivating this intimacy with ourselves. We're bringing it deeply within ourselves before we start bringing it into the world. That way, when we do bring it into the world, we're able to hold. We're able to really support it with our willpower. Often the heart closes because our third energy center, our willpower, isn't strong enough to support the heart being open. So then if somebody says something and it hurts, we don't have that supporting strength of who am I and who am I not. And that's why we use the micro little adjustments, those micro movements, is to help create the stability. So we create the safety within our body. We breathe into the pelvis to help support our creativity. And then we strengthen through the willpower. Who am I and who am I not? So we can hold the heart open. And with an open heart, we can share and we can communicate, we can hear things, but in an extraordinarily supported way. And so that's part of what these practices are ways to support us in staying completely open instead of living in fear of what other people's responses are going to be to our change and our growth. We can allow people to be uncomfortable and scared. Some people are going to, because our relationships with these people are based on who we were. And so when we're suddenly making a shift or a change, they're like, well, where does that leave me? And once we're centered in it, we can look at them and go, well, it leaves you right here with me. And they might say, well, I don't love this. Okay, well, this is who I am and this is how I'm shifting. And I'd love to continue the journey with you. But if you need a little time and space, it's okay. Just know that I'm here. And so we can handle it from this very, very different place than fear of rejection. And that's why I really encourage us to become intimate with ourselves, with this new version of ourselves, this remembrance of our deepest self. Then we can hold that space with other people without fear of loss. So I want to share with you a guided somatic practice. It's just an integration drop-in. You can mark this here, but we're going to sit up straight or lay down. We're going to put our hands on our heart, or a hand on our heart, one on our solar plexus to get that support from beneath us. And we're going to take 3 full rounds of breath, breathing in through our nose and sighing it out. In through our nose and out through our mouth. And one more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we're going to invite one recent shift or realization and let the body respond. No fixing, no forcing. And when you're ready, you can whisper, I can hold this. I am holding this. And then we inhale, I receive. And we exhale, I release. Repeat that 3 times. Inhale, I receive. Exhale, I release. One more time. Inhale, I receive. Exhale, I release. And then just let silence breathe through the space. Just let it land. If you are in this space between identities, between beliefs, between lives, you're not behind. You are becoming, you are remembering. And reclaiming your nervous system is part of the path. We are exploring all of this inside the Unlearning Bootcamp, which is absolutely free and it's not too late to join. It began on June 9th. You'll get all the replays, the practices, and the community that gets it. You can subscribe here. And if you're watching this later, don't worry. You can join me in the Awakening Circle, our private Facebook community, where we walk this journey of self-realization together. And comment below, what's one pattern you've revisited after a breakthrough, and what's different now? You're not spiraling, you're stabilizing. If this episode stirred something in you, if it reminded you of your truth, or helped you soften into it, I'd love for you to stay connected. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Share this with a woman that you love or anyone that you love. And check out the Sovereignty Rising podcast for more soul truths. A new episode drops every single Friday. You can listen here or on your favorite streaming service. Until next time, I see the light in you, and it is freaking brilliant. I want you to allow yourself to see it too.